Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Coding and Chill. It's Friday and I can confirm officially that it is October. We made it. October, definitely easily a top 10 month. I hope it's been going great for you. Hope you've been having a lovely Friday so far and it's only leading up to an even better weekend. Let me know in the chat how you're doing. Let me know in the chat how you're planning to spend the weekend. If you're working on something today, if you worked on something fun and interesting during the week, if something stumped you, let me know. Maybe I can help. That'd be super fun to do. I do have the agenda for today's episode, for today's stream, on the side of the screen, and we've got a very exciting one today. We're having this episode because I'm curious. We're gonna go on a curiosity journey. A couple weeks ago, maybe 1 month ago, we did a stream on how to do social meta tags with SvelteKit, and I will switch to my screen to show what I'm talking about. There is this site where you can preview any link that you can share on social media, like on a Discord server or on WhatsApp or wherever else. And sometimes you get this nice preview that has this amazing card that's really eye-catching, to be sure. But even for SEO and for Google search reasons, you get a nicer output if you manage to put your tags correctly. So what we did last time was add the meta tags properly for our Techy Cat website. This is a website where we showcase some stuff that we can do with Svelte, and even added a memory game recently. But we've added some design approved images there. And by design team approved, I mean I've approved them because I'm the design team here. They aren't nothing to write home about, but I think they do the job, and most of all, they showcase that if you have something like this, you probably don't want to do anything even clever. You don't want to over-engineer generating these dynamically, these social preview images dynamically. I think it's going to be easier if you have a blog, or even if you have an ESOP or whatever else, to say that for each item also put in an image preview, something we can use for social media snippets. It does play a huge part on the click-through rate. If you have a nice image, if you have like the catchiest line from your blog post or whatever else, maybe some proof that it's 5 stars, something like that. People love to see that. They get curious to read more, so they click through without being baited. So not clickbait, try to do something that does eye catch, but still is legit. Legit bait, I think some other YouTubers are calling it. In any case, it is easier to have your design team or you yourself craft one of these images, but there are some cases where that's literally not possible. So I've been sharing the code to my repository, the repository for the Techy Cat website, and GitHub has an amazing preview card here, which is very dynamic. So it has the name of the project, the name of the organization, and the project there. It has, I guess, the image of the author of the project. Maybe I should put something nicer there than just my face. But most impressively, it has this code breakdown. So this is actually how much of the repository is made up of which language. So you can see that most of it is Svelte, the other most of it is TypeScript, but there is some vanilla CSS, JavaScript, and HTML in some places. So that is totally dynamic, as is the amount of contributors, the amount of issues, the amount of stars, the amount of forks. So even if you have your design team design your social media preview template for this, it would have to be a bit of a template, really. You'd have to go in and change the values for organization name, repo name, the avatar goes here, the numbers, all of this would need to be dynamic. You'd need to manually update them every time someone starts the project or does something like that, which is really impossible. No one is virtually possible, I should say. No one is willingly gonna do that. This is not the most efficient way to do it, even for a repo that doesn't get that much stars change overnight. I don't think you'd want to handcraft its social preview image. So if the app you're building has something like that, where the user has custom content and the users have custom content, and you want to showcase something dynamic like the amount of likes each post gets, the amount of shares, something like that, keep the author avatar accurate, the thumbnails accurate, all of those things, then you would need to dynamically generate those images. So I was curious, how does GitHub do this? And the answer is, I don't know, but I know how I would do it. I think there are two ways to do it. On the backend, you can use a tool like, I think it's called GIMP.js, where you can have your node backend stack layers of images on top of each other and render it. But that has quite a lot of complications. I think that's maybe the most efficient way to do it, especially if you start using SVGs and all that stuff. But if you want to have your own custom font faces and you want them to render correctly, I think that's too much work. It's not pleasant to work at. I'm not going to do it like that. Besides, I don't think GitHub is JavaScript. Once upon a time, it was famously Ruby and Rails. It's probably still the case, but that's by the by. I'm sure there is an equivalent. Let's stack some images and some text on each other tool for Rails. Probably better than GIMP, to be honest. But I don't know if that's what they're using. But what I would be using is a framework like SvelteKit or React or whatever else you like, to actually render this on the front end, and then have a tool like Puppeteer, which controls a browser and can navigate through your page, to go there, take a screenshot, and that's the thing that you actually serve as the social media preview image. So that's my crazy like a fox plan, and that's what I would like to do today. That's what I would attempt to do today. I don't know if it will actually work. We'll find out together. These streams are all about exploring opportunities, discovering opportunities, and learning things, and not necessarily here's how you do this. We do have the long form videos, which are actually shorter than the streams because they are ruthlessly cut and scripted, so they won't be wasting your time, where I'm telling you, all right, I figured it out, everyone, this is how you do meta tags, and this is how you do dynamic meta tags. That video may be, 15 minutes, but the stream is going to be long, and who knows where we're gonna arrive at the end. So to go through the agenda, again, I mentioned social preview images. They really make your content more click-throughable, more interesting for people to see and click at. I have gotten more people to actually go to the Techy Cat website, which you can't see on this little window, but I won't be bothered to join. Well, why not? Go all the way. So it is more exciting to share this and see even the not so great preview image that I've created besides the link. I do think people click through it more. I do have the general stats of where are people coming from. So I do think adding an image to your URLs definitely helps. That's my anecdotal evidence. So sometimes, instead of having your design team or you yourself on Figma or wherever else, if you are a design wizard, creating those social preview images, most of the time you will be able to do this, but sometimes you will not if you want to have elements that are very dynamic or very interactive. So if you want to show the amount of views, the amount of stars, things like that, fun breakdowns like GitHub does of the language that each repo is composed of, then you'd have to go dynamic. It wouldn't be efficient. It won't be really possible for you to do this for everything. So we'll be attempting to do something like that by rendering a nice preview image for our app in SvelteKit and then taking a screenshot using a tool called Puppeteer. That's the plan for today. I should also highlight the Discord community that I've set up the other day, 1 week. The big thing there is please come in and join. I'm planning to have a marathon stream on the 21st of October. One of the ways that October is going to be a top 10 month is we'll have a marathon stream where we'll be building a brand new app. And you have to decide what type of app we'll be building. Let me know in the comments here. Let me know in the comments of any videos. But best of all, I would say, let me know on the Discord server, because then I can ask follow-up questions more easily and I can find what people have suggested even more easily. Finding the YouTube comments, I just commit them to memory and hope for the best. Finding them again by searching YouTube is impossible. So if they get lost from my memory, they get lost forever, I'm afraid. So join the conversation on Discord if you'd like, if you want to have an impact of whether we're going to build an e-commerce site or a SaaS style site or just a portfolio or whatever else. Go there, let me know. I love building things that you find useful. I don't want to just build things that no one is going to use and no one is going to learn anything from them. So please let me know. You'll find the links in the description as well if you don't want to type this hard to type number. I suppose maybe that's something we can do in a different episode. I can have like a little link here that actually redirects. So if you go to Discord or something, I don't know. That's something for another day. That also on my screen. If you look at the top, we can set the SvelteKit. So, or I guess our domain host Vercel. Say if you go to Techy Cat /Discord, it actually redirects you to the Discord server, so you don't have to remember this random string of letters. I'm pretty sure that Discord has some feature that you can have like a vanity URL that's more readable, but you know, do you need to pay for that? Not sure. Not sure how that works. Let me know how it works in the comments in the Discord. I'll make it there one day. And right. I've successfully broadcasted this. There is more than 2 people there at this moment, which is very happy news for me. I didn't expect that. So, meta tags, I think I've kind of recapped this. I do have this tool that I found where I can paste in any link and then it will tell me how Google will show it, how it will appear on some social media like Twitter and stuff. And what we've done is that our core layout component is rendering the title that it's getting as data from the .server, the pluspage.server.ts magic files that SvelteKit provides. So it will default to a default title, to a default meta description, and a default image. That's like the root image that you see. But if a particular server method for our route page has other information, it will use that one instead. So every one of the pages here, you can see on the right, has a different title and description for sure, but the only one, so if we go to ideas, you'll see that it does have a different title and a different description, but it is reusing the core, the main, the default social preview image. But there is one particular one, our memory game, which reuses it's games memory. So let's go there. So this one has a handcrafted one, a custom one we've created just for this page. And the way these get loaded up is our page server TS files can return a meta object which has the overrides, I suppose. So instead of the default title, use this description, and use this image URL with this alt. That's how it works. The idea now is to somehow point this to maybe a serverless Lambda to a backend we'll try to deploy to Vercel, a SvelteKit endpoint that we'll try to deploy to Vercel, and that will dynamically create the image that we want according to parameters we put in. That's the plan. Hope you like it. We're going through it. And I did talk about GIMP a little bit, which I think will be the most performant way to do it, but I'm most comfortable with front-end frameworks, I'm gonna be honest here. Definitely full stack over the 20 years I've been doing this, but front-end is much easier to work with when it comes to UI elements, which seems a bit tautological, a bit of a tautology, obvious, something like that. So what we'll do is build the UI of the social preview image first, and then try to worry about how will we stream this as an image buffer or something later. We'll see. So not too much on the backend to start with. We'll be trying to build a UI for this new page I created actually for the next video that's gonna appear, which is gonna be animations with Lottie. It's not gonna be the Playwright video because I've been stuck on this for so long and I need a win. I thought that this would be like an under 10-minute video. It's gonna be 18, I think, but it's close to done and much less than the runtime of the Playwright video that was gonna be like 45 minutes. I'll maybe pick it up, the Playwright video, at some point, but look forward for the animations with Lottie video in the coming week. In any case, we have this, and I think I'll create like yet another demo here. And the idea is that each of the demos that we have is going to have a dynamic social preview image. Maybe it's going to say that 2 people have hearted this, or 10 people have hearted this, or last updated sometime, in order to justify why we're doing this with a dynamic image that we generate on the server, instead of creating something on Figma and downloaded it like we've done on the other thing. All right, cool. I'll catch my breath, take a sip of coffee, and then we're full on coding. I'll set up my focus timer as well, but I do keep an eye on the chat for sure, just in case. It's sometimes very helpful. I mistype something or forget how something works, and the chat lets me know the error of my ways, and it's very helpful. But mostly I put in the timer to remember to stop after the 25 minutes and take a little break. I find that helps me keep the stream going for longer if I have like this break. So, Svelte UI of a social preview image. First up, I'm gonna create another one of these cards, which currently is hard-coded. So let's have a look at demos, server.ts. Let's copy this, generate another ID for the fun of it. Free online generator. Why would you pay for this? This is going to be the link. Gonna be making dynamic social preview images. And now this appears. And of course, then there is no related route for this. Let's change the fake time here to something else. Made it in the future. The idea for the demos is that I won't be storing a database, the server component to the Svelte component to load, or have a stack blitz or code sandbox or something. I think for each of the demos, I will have a separate page here, separate route in SvelteKit. How SvelteKit works, still we have the routes directory. Inside is all the subroutes you want to have, and each route needs to have those magic plus page files. Plus page.svelte is the list that you want, the bare minimum that you would like. It's the UI that you want to share. So let's create our, what did we call it? Social previews. Dynamic previews. Dynamic preview images. Seems correct. And just to do it from scratch, page.svelte. We can just say hello, and it should render here. But what we actually want is, I guess, we want the title in any case, and then we'll create a little embed in the specified directions. We will need to reset the layout at some point, which may result in heavy refactoring of how these are nested, rather, how the routes are nested. But we'll come to that when the time comes. So let's take inspiration from this other page. It looks like we render a section component. And we also have a script tag, so we can import our page heading and all of that. We have some page data there. Don't want this. We don't want the demo card. We're gonna say so to start with, I'm gonna create a component that we're gonna put in here, embed in here. That's gonna be the image that we're hoping to share. And then I'm gonna try to render just that in another route that won't have the header or the footer. And that's gonna be a huge win. And then I'm gonna install Puppeteer and try to get them to that route and take a screenshot. And then we'll try to stream that screenshot from a SvelteKit endpoint. That's the plan. Let's hope for the best. There are many places where this can go horribly wrong or just not work. The saddest one would be right at the end when we deploy this to Vercel. Maybe it's Puppeteer is not gonna work right there, but we'll see. Like, no need to be pessimistic. Be positive, like Rocky Balboa would say. I am gonna create a page.server just to have the load method. Which we'll want in a meta way to include an image that we dynamically generate at some point. And I am gonna copy whatever I said about the title and the description and all of that. And Puppeteer. We don't want that. Don't want to return any data, just the meta. We won't be reading or setting any cookies here. And let's just say all right, so the Svelte component below, that's the thing that we want to build. Once again, I am not a designer, so let's see how GitHub does it. I don't know if we'll actually do it like that. The cool things about it is the number of stars and forks. They do have the GitHub logo, which is also nice, and we could impose if we had a logo ourselves. A featured image as well is cool. Lots of cool things here, I'm gonna be honest. I think the easiest and coolest thing we can actually do is just a gradient, I suppose. What gradients did we have? All right, maybe first of all, this meta tag, we want the width and height to be 1200 to 630. We can hard code this in because we know that we'll actually be rendering this inside we'll be rendering this somewhere where Puppeteer will be going with exactly that resolution. So it's fine if that's all we ask for. So let's create the dynamic preview image.svelte component. And it's gonna have a script tag because it's gonna have some parameters that are gonna be dynamic. I don't know exactly what then. Hard count would be fun. And who knows what else? Let's start with that one. I guess title. And I don't know if we'll have the description or anything else. But the important thing is that maybe it's all a div that has a specific width and height. And I'll see if this renders horribly there. So width should be something specific. We said 1200 pixels, and height should also be something specific, which we said is 630. And in the previous episode, last month's episode on meta tags, we found that this is the one thumbnail size that you want to preview things best for Twitter and Facebook and all of those sites. That should satisfy them all well enough. And let's add the background just to see how that will look. From our primary to our secondary color. And render a title here. And hard count indeed. And go into our page and render this. Maybe subtitle. And hard count like 4. And I don't see the gradient, interestingly enough. Let's render the subtitle. Did I camel case this? I think I didn't. Good. And right, so the Tailwind claims that this should have had a gradient. This div. Did the height work? I think the answer is no. I have been having some Playwright, some Tailwind CSS problems with SvelteKit recently. Hope they do go away. But we do want the title for sure to be text, like for Excel. Yeah, these classes don't seem to apply. Eventually they got there. All right, so the background. Why isn't this applying? Where am I breaking it with this? Must be using gradient somewhere else in this page. We do it for the links, for the big buttons, like the login button and stuff like that. For this button, this works, that's fine. Does it need to be a block? This weren't a block. Does it get upset? No. Let's try to reuse this. Hey Bruce, thanks for that. Yeah, I've been doing that a lot before the stream, trying to set things up. For some reason, Tailwind has been freezing quite a lot, but somehow it worked in the end. Right, so we have this super gaudy, let's say, gradient. Can we make it more stylish? Or even more gaudy? It can only go two ways. I'm wondering if I should do like the shiny thing that we did with our custom thumbnail, or just play it safe. Just go crazy with this. Just a little gradient should be fine. Alright, so let's add some padding. Maybe even rounded corners, I'd say, although it won't be transparent in reality. Surely it won't have alpha, whatever we render. So I will refrain from rounding the corners and adding shadows and all that, because no one would be able to see it. And we don't want any margins, because in the page that we render in the end, it will be literally just this. So we'll make this thin too. As hard to read as possible. Maybe it's a stream of where we try to make this as gaudy as possible. So the cool thing with using a framework like SvelteKit for doing the preview image is that, you know, if you know how to use flex and do the gaps and all of that, it's much easier than if we're trying to use something like Simp. Hey Jorge, how are you doing? So yeah, that's the title. How do I not grow? Maybe we don't want to use Flexbox for everything. Maybe sometimes you just want to add regular margins. stuff. Svelte and Firebase, awesome. Hope you found the videos useful and that they're still valid. The gist of it. The spirit of them is definitely valid, but the code I'm a bit suspect. They may need to be revisited at some point. Redone. If only I could upload like a version 2.0 of every video. That would be awesome. So let's look at flex, because I do want to align at flex end and whatnot. So I try to do it by heart. So flex call gap 6, turn back on what I said about adding the margins. I don't want this to stretch like vertically, and I don't remember how you do this. Is it like the flex spaces? Is it the flex? There is like a stretch thing. That's not the grow or the string. Like the align self. Yeah, it should be align self. So maybe if I do item start, it's gonna be fine. All right, but the last one with a heart, I want to align it on the right. So Jorge says, really love Supabase, but I hate the auth system based on local store. I prefer server-only cookies. That's what I'm doing in this app. I've disabled everything Supabase client does by itself, and I'm doing my custom thing with cookies only. But when I did that super long video with Firebase auth, I realized, why does everyone do it only client-side? That's definitely the easy way to do it. Like, use local storage, use client-side stuff all the time, and don't worry too much about it. Cookies is the hard way to do it. So it's not flex self end. All right, it does look a bit wonky, but not too bad. I guess it depends on how big we make the title. So let's imagine that here we're trying to share for the other one animations with Lottie plus SvelteKit, where the title would go over the other line. It would still look nice and be dynamic, while still, I'm hoping, the height does change. Is it because I removed the height stuff when Tailwind was kinda flipping out? Probably. Yeah, so we did want a height of, I'll forget this again, it's like 630 pixels. Huge. Yeah, so now that we try to preview it here, it's a bit much. So maybe we can apply it in a different way. Can we do a ratio? I guess it's only for video. Oh, Tailwind. Oh, Adam, you got us. So I can do full height and full width. And then in the other page that we make, we can put it in a container that's just that big. But for now, can encase it in just a div and it will have this. The problem is it doesn't guarantee the aspect ratio that we want. I don't know how to work for that. Maybe we'll find it somewhere else. We'll figure it out somehow. But yeah, I think I do want to play around with how this looks the most, because that's the part that I believe is the most knowable of all, the one that I have higher chance of succeeding with. Yeah, so we could have like a little image or logo, like a cat or whatever else, but we're imagining that this is dynamic, the heart count. The title is definitely dynamic and the subtitle is dynamic. So maybe we can go back to the agenda and consider we've built the Svelte UI, and then we'll tweak it after we manage to reset this to an almost empty layout. So now, of course, we have this content, which is easy enough to clear, but we also have the header and the footer, which is harder to clear, believe it or not, because there is no easy way to reset the layout in Svelte completely. You can nest layouts. If you're not familiar with layouts in Svelte, what we have in this app is just the one layout that is also responsible for rendering the meta tags, for example, as we said, but also for putting the right theme. So if you have the dark theme or the light theme, all of that, that's the part that's responsible. That's the thing that's responsible. I should be explicit about the color of the text as well, looks like. That's a good reminder. Anyway, we have just the one layout, but if we had, you can also nest layouts inside your routes, and then those layouts get nested inside your root layout, and you can have as many you can have as many nested layouts as you want, and you can also have named layouts. So in the same routes, you can have something use your blog post layout and your blog index layout or whatever else. Lots of complicated stuff, powerful stuff that you may need to do. And there is a way to escape from the routing system. So if you want your game's memory leaderboard to escape from all the nested layouts that you want, there is a way to do that, but it still goes back to the root layout. So we'll need to do a refactor to have our root layout not do any stuff with the meta tags, I suppose, but definitely not do the header stuff. So we want a layout, we want the real root layout to not have the header and the footer always rendered, not have the main class, not have any of that. That's what we're gonna do next. My little beep thing went beep, so I will try to catch up with the chat. So I also catch my breath. OBS, which is the Open Broadcasting Software, I believe that's what the acronym stands for. It's the tool I use for the streams. Has just updated, and it looks very different, very more rounded look, if there is one way to describe it. Lots of things have unnecessary uppercasing going on, which is throwing me off a little bit. But, you know, change makes things feel fresh. Next up, we will tackle the refactor stuff. So try to make it so our root layout is pretty much maybe only rendering the theme, maybe not even that. Maybe our root layout only has the slot and that's it. I'm not sure. I'll think about this. But it shouldn't be doing anything for the user, for example. I don't know. I'm between two minds on this. We'll figure it out. Maybe no theming, maybe no nothing. Maybe that's the way to do it. And then we'll have the not quite root, but by all intents and purposes, root layout that's going to do all of this stuff. But the UI that will render, like this component, will try to render it somewhere that doesn't have anything else. So let's see how we'll accomplish that. This is also a kind of new thing with SvelteKit and layouts. As far as I know, they had this, what do they call it, main? What do they call it? That you can put layouts inside groups by using the parentheses syntax, which is what I was thinking I would be trying to do. So if we search for reset layout, we can nest everything that we have now inside an app directory that will functionally do nothing, but it will allow us to have a vanilla layout here that maybe just imports our CSS and that's it. And then our current root layout becomes this, really. And that means that we can have a different route that's going to be like social or meta social preview image or something that renders the component we just created. And or maybe we can just say that this renders like this. We'll see. Right, 25 more minutes. Let's get on it. So oops, don't move anything. The scary part. Let's call this app. Why not? We can call this anything, I suppose. And put everything. I will kill the server for this. I'm sure that it would be fine otherwise, but who knows. Move everything inside app. I wonder if this broke any imports. I'll be surprised if not, but not like super surprised. I give it a 50-50 that it broke stuff. And if well, let's just do the stuff that we wanted. We can add in the routes, it has nothing other than the app directory. We also want a layout, which will be importing app CSS. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Should we be doing the theming stuff? Should we be doing the user and the theming stuff in the root layout? Maybe. Even the meta tags, I guess, we can do in the root layout. I'm between two minds on this. The thing that I don't want to do is this for sure. So at the very least, I want to do this here, but I'm debating, should I be doing all of this in the root layout? Probably not. I'm gonna say probably not. So yeah, root layout, you do nothing other than dictionary. You're not being helpful. Oops, once again, I've forgotten to go to my desktop screen. Haven't done anything too exciting, don't worry. So I've moved all the files we had inside this app directory, and I've created a plus layout.svelte that I'm gonna just have a script tag that imports all our app CSS and renders a slot, which will be everything it has to render further. This means that it doesn't need a sibling server component. And then our previously root layout becomes the app groups layout, and it doesn't need to import app CSS again, but other than that stays the same. And if I run the server again, maybe things will just work. So I'm expecting no difference to before. All functionality should be the same. Can go here. This looks... Oh, I guess I've unstarted things as I was playing around with recording the other video. Yeah, as expected, everything works just fine. Perfectly. Peachy. Amazingly. This animation has been a bit funky for me, I don't know why. Anyway, everything has been working peachy. The goal for this is to render this component without header and footer or anything, really. So let's see if we can do that. Let's see. So with a plus layout at, we could just render this component in a page that's sibling to this. Dynamic preview image Svelte. But do we want it to be somewhere else and different route? Considering whether we want like a meta directory and then maybe a social preview image or a thumbnail, social thumbnail. I don't know how we'd be working with this exactly. We'll go step by step. And it's maybe inside there that I want to have this component. So we probably need to refactor this. It's kind of funny. And in our social thumbnail directory, we also want a page.svelte. But this one won't have a heading. It will probably have data, but it won't be inside a container, really. Maybe we call this main, I guess, for fun. And this is where I was thinking would be adding the width and the height. This. And import this. And let's see what happens if we try to get there. So what happens, we go to, and let's open a new window. Localhost meta social thumbnail. Right, great. So we should design it a bit better. This should be at the end, I suppose, of the page. And clearly we want even bigger text and all that. And white letters. But if we make that work, then all we need is to get Puppeteer to get to this page and take a screenshot. And then I guess all that we'd really need is to pass dynamic stuff here. And I wonder, so we'd want to hit like this with like .png and get the image of it. But would we be able to do like a title equals my title and use that query parameter? And my guess would be, yeah, why not? We should be able to just do it. So maybe that's the thing that we should do first. I also remember that after a comment from the last video, I promised that I will have timestamps up sooner. I think that the break was around 45. And we did do the layout, and I think what we'll do is dynamic properties from query parameters here from sales params. Right now, which is the 55 point. Thanks for bearing with me as I think of this on the background. So let's make that hard. Let's make everything much bigger. Make everything much bigger. Clearly, an blurred image as background would be much more pleasant to see. So is it justify self end? I'm trying to remember how to position this at the end of the flex container. I guess we can always grow this. That's about it. And the next goal is for this to be dynamic according to what we pass here. So we would need a page server which we can copy from somewhere else actually. Maybe we can copy from here. Nope. Why did I hide the heart on the right? It's much harder to code. It's throwing me off. Let's look at demos. I want to steal this. Put it in here. We won't be returning meta attributes, but we will be returning is title, subtitle, head count, heart count. That looks almost correct. But I think we have access to the URL here. So should be is this not typed? Any? What is any? What's that about? Well, it wasn't found. I find that hard to believe. So it should be this, I suppose. Yeah, doesn't want to find it. This means I need to do this blind. Is something hard crossing? That's why it's not doing it. Ah, right. I do need the component to actually use this. All right. So this goes to the right place on the front end side. And this seems happy now. All right, we've woken it up. We've convinced him that this file exists. It managed to find it. VS Code is with us now. And use that in the UI. Not quite what I hoped, but hey. All right, we're getting somewhere. We need to remember that everything here has text, white. Is there text shadow? No. Sure. And I hope that if I do title animations with Lottie, it works. Cool. So I can hit this page with query parameters, and that was our goal, really, because now we can go and bring in Puppeteer. So we've done the break. We've reset to an almost empty layout. And we're getting the dynamic properties. And now let's see how we can return an image here. 1 hour in. So, can we have just a server endpoint in a place where we also have UI? That's a question that I have. Because I'm thinking, so can I have a plus server.ts in a place where I have a plus page.ts as well? It doesn't say here, so maybe not, maybe yes. My feeling is that that's not allowed, but I'm not sure. As well as pages, you can find routes with this. Thank you for joining me in this live reading of Svelte Talks, SvelteKit Talks even. I wonder if it's you need to do the content type magic so it will just work. Yes, cool. All right, so they do have a page and a server endpoint in the same route. Amazing, because that's what we want. But we want to do it the other way around. It's going to be our server that's going to be hitting our front end for this. Madness. Crazy like a fox. Territory for sure. I wonder if I can emulate like a Mac? What's the widest thing I can emulate here? That's gonna make it look a bit nicer. What are we rendering even? I've forgotten in all the excitement. Right, 1200. 1200, I'll say again. I wonder, why doesn't this fill the whole screen? It feels like a problem. Auto adjust zoom. It's like unwilling to show anything more. Anyway, it doesn't matter that much. What does matter is that we do want to do the opposite of what the SvelteKit docs are saying. We want to hit our server endpoint somehow. And that should be returning an image. But is that true? Like we won't be able to say to like Twitter, hit this and put in your headers application.json or that you want an image. So I am fearful that it might return the HTML, which is not what we want. We want to return an image. So maybe a dedicated page does make sense. Social thumbnail. Yeah, so let's just do a /png here and call it a day. And in here, we'll be putting a plus server.ts. And in here, we should be able to return an image or a buffer, I guess. Is there buffer anywhere in docs? Not really. All right, let's do all of this. This page. We probably request handler. We will want to do everything that we've done here. Really. So say our const is this. Parse int this. And request handler, how are we gonna get that? Let's type this. It's probably gonna be magically created from our relative types. So my hope is if I hit /png, not quite that. And then add the query parameters. My server responds, and this is where I want my server to spin up Puppeteer and go to the other page and take a screenshot. Exciting stuff. Is this ever gonna work? We're close to finding out. This is the most critical part. Which I guess means we're on Puppeteer time. And let's go to the docs. here we go. We want to go to a page and stream a screenshot. I think you can call this without a path, and then it returns the buffer, which is what we want to return in the response. It's gonna be genius. And I think we can even say headers. Do you pass headers here? What do you do? Do I do new response anywhere else in the app? I think so. Status, okay. Oof. Video, GitHub Copilot, almost correct here. So if we go here, we are returning an image. Great. Awesome. I thought that it asked to be returned, but that's by the by. What do we want? We want to install Puppeteer. What's the difference between Puppeteer and Puppeteer Core? Blah blah blah. I think all this blah 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 says use Puppeteer. Good luck to us. Will this ever work? So I'm hoping this returns a buffer. It's a promise that returns a buffer. So if I just put it here, hit it again. So afraid this may happen. Oh, it wasn't running the server. Still a chance that this will still just work. Puppeteer does take a while, so it taking it a while doesn't mean anything bad just yet. If it takes like 5 minutes, I'm just looking at the video. Oh my god, it's gonna work! It's gonna work. So we hit example.com, and what we want is to hit the same URL without the PNG, without the /PNG, really. How do we ignore that? How do we ignore the URL? How do we ensure, like, if we have like a title that's how to do PNGs, we don't want to strip that, right? So we want to strip it at the end. So we want to strip it at the end. But maybe let's mess with one problem at a time. So let's say we have this URL. Let's go to regex_. Oof, and we want to remove the PNG that's before the question mark. But we need to escape this. maybe we just want to escape to find /png, right? That's never gonna happen. So /png with nothing. And the image URL, the image UI URL is gonna be this. Let's console log it for the fun of it. Go there, take a screenshot. What else do we need? The dimensions, the viewport, something like that. Does it have like viewport? How do I specify the viewport? Set viewport. It's a page thingy. And the viewport, just width, height, scale 1. Default value is fine, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. So yeah, I think if we just do this, thank you, Copilot, and we go there, this is gonna work and we're gonna get this image back. Awesome. Oof. For those of you that haven't dropped through me mumbling to myself, then I think we all agree that this is awesome. Surely, this is an image we managed to render, and it was quite fast this time as well. Like much faster than I thought. So let's prove it's dynamic. And subtitle equals so many unescaped characters. All right, well, take my pat on the back and say that we did it. Like the design may leave something to be desired, but this is quite neat. Is this just the start of it? So how do we make... right, so we need to deploy it still and see that will work. And how do we make use of this in the end? We'll see. Let me check the URL as well. It seems like we do hit it. Yeah, the /png, finding the /png. Where else would we have /png? Like no title will have /png. So that feels safe enough. That feels safe enough. Talking about this part. Well, what's in my agenda? I think, is it just did this? The casting of it. I'm worried that you don't want your serverless method to run Puppeteer every time someone links to your page, because if you get I guess even if you put it in a platform like Refactor or Reddit or wherever else, they will create once. I don't think they will keep querying it all the time, so it shouldn't be that heavy, but it's definitely slow, and maybe those things have like a time limit. So we should set some casting headers, but maybe that's a next step. Maybe we should try to deploy it and see if that works first. So this endpoint works. What is missing? What is missing? I'm not actually getting the search params here, because by replacing the /png there, I'm actually creating the exact URL we want. So all of this, no need to proxy them through. You only need to support them on the one place. This is very neat. This is the Playwright stuff. No need to cast it yet. What I'm trying to say is that we have this page here, for example, and we want this to have a meta tag that links to this thumbnail. How do we do that? Somewhere in here. I was console-logging all the URLs. So we want to say that this, like Twitter, this is what we want to share. How do we do that? That's the problem to solve now. So this, I suppose that we can take inspiration from the memory game. The memory game, what does it return? It returns a meta image URL and alt. All right, so we're gonna use it like this. So here, take the URL, structure the URL, and oh, interestingly, where I like before I did put the images in a meta directory inside the static directory that gets deployed as is, and the route that I created was meta as well. Interesting indeed. Maybe we want to call this like dynamic thumbnail. I'm not sure. / dynamic, meta dynamic. I'm not sure. Let's make it work as this. So meta social thumbnail. But that's gonna be the tricky part. Potentially tricky part, maybe not the tricky part. Thumbnail / PNG. So we want to go there, and we want this to have search params copy these guys. And the title is going to be title. The subtitle is going to be description. And the image URL hard count. Let's do it like this actually. It's going to be, I don't know, 12. Let's see. To be a string, and the title we can reuse, the description we can reuse, and the URL is gonna be image URL href at this point, and the alt is gonna be this. So I'm hoping that now if I look at the HTML of this page, it will have some meta tags, and the OG image is all of this. And if I go there, or if Twitter was to go there, or Discord or whoever, it's gonna have this image, which looks amazing. Yeah, so this could be a bit nicer, as I said before. Maybe the spacing of this, at the very least. Yeah, the subtitle should be a subtitle. It shouldn't just be... shouldn't be like a paragraph of stuff. Like, use more images, all of that. But it doesn't really matter. What does matter is if I deploy this to Vercel, will this run? And if I put it in my meta tags site, will it look nice? So let's try it out. 98 changes because of the huge refactor. It's worth it. Yeah, commit everything. Any nagging console logs? Don't think so. Open that. This branch also has my changes for the video, where for the videos I nuke everything I've done in the stream or doing my own research or whatever and redo them again on camera, recording them. Which I guess explains a little bit why in the videos I'm quite faster than I am in the streams. Also, not having to keep an eye on the chat and talk plays a part as well. But, you know, excuses. Also, speed is overrated. Cool. So, animations with Lottie plus create this pull request, so Vercel will for sure deploy this. Deployment has failed. I was afraid of this. What? This gets built eventually. Yeah, this was a fear that I did have, that nesting things at some point there would be something crazy like this. Because I don't think we can resolve the root. Root tiers, this and this. Yeah, I wish a root tier could have been just the source directory, but not today. Which does mean that we'll need to hunt this down a bit differently, I suppose. Do I get the error here? From theme server. So I guess this is actually from here. All right. That's the only thing that was missing was that. And there is something else about data that we ain't using. I guess it's in the same component. Where is it? Let's have a look again. This one. We're not using the data. Should we be using the data? I guess yes. Yeah. Am I returning this? No? Oh. Ah, right, I'm not returning this. Sorry, I was confused. So let's not use this and everything should be fine. And we can even amend the commit with no edit. Just build again for safety. Commit amend with no edit. And push and see if Vercel deploys that. So I was afraid Vercel wouldn't be able to deploy, or it would crash when it would try to run Puppeteer. I wasn't afraid of this, that I would have messed up on import. So let's see. If I had a stream manager, I would definitely be asking for a poll now. Like, do you think this is gonna work or not? On our newly deployed site, we'll get a URL, we'll put in here and try to share this URL. This URL, but on the deployed site, not localhost. And the hope would be that it just works. Let's see it working. It says ready. It says ready, fam. It's gonna work. Puppeteer is checking it already. Playwright, sorry. I'm confused with all the tools we're using. This is the preview site. We want to ignore, go there. And the demos, dynamic social preview images. Question is, I paste this URL here. Are we gonna get it? No. Oh no, why not? Why not? Is it because it doesn't end with PNG? What's the problem? Why doesn't it like it? If I go to this, it works just fine. If I find the URL here, could it be that it's not fast enough? Maybe. Let's look at this again. Plonk. Terminal error. Great. That's one of the things that I thought may go wrong. That Vercel, as it tries to run Puppeteer, it blows up. Unfortunate, but you know, at least I thought it may happen. So let's see if we can go into the Vercel dashboard somewhere to debug this. Somewhere to debug this. Could not find, yes, of course. So we haven't installed Chrome, and Puppeteer needs Chrome to run Chromium. So how do we force this? There must be a flag or something. For Puppeteer, we're doing this. How would we do it? For Playwright, we're doing this. How would we do it for Puppeteer? That's not what I want. This says you automatically download and install Chromium, which is not correct. Is it that the Lambda doesn't have it? That could be a problem. That could be a problem. Because that's a big thing, I guess, to put in a lambda. Ignore scripts, that's not what we want. So the only thing I can think is to search for install Chromium Vercel lambda deploy. Ended up using Playwright. That'd be interesting. Can we use Playwright for this, which we already have? Ooh. Interesting. Puppeteer and Puppeteer core. Too many threads to read on stream. I wonder if trying to do Puppeteer, if trying to do Playwright instead of Puppeteer would work for us. This person seems to be doing something very similar. Let's try to install these two things. See if it's gonna work for us. So let's try this. And Puppeteer core. Maybe uninstall here first. It would be an interesting refactor to make it work with Playwright first, but we'll see. The thing with Playwright is that we do install it for our end-to-end GitHub action, but it does install more browsers, so would we need that for our Lambda? Don't really know. Let's try this person's option. That doesn't quite work. But seems maybe slightly more promising. And then, if that doesn't work, we can try Playwright. So in here, we actually want these two things. And Puppeteer launch options. It's just gonna make it worse, isn't it? I'm afraid it will. Does this not return an image buffer anymore? Anything on the server or through an error? All right, so will this still work if I run the server? Answer is no. Yeah, so how do we do it with Playwright? The problem with Playwright specs and all that is that they're specs and they do run thanks to this config as well. So I'm not convinced it would work. So instead of Playwright test, I imagine I'd be using Playwright, which is not this library. It's the CLI. I think, yeah, I forgot to add the break. So I am gonna take the break now and read the chat. So Bruce, appointment management scheduling website, Calendly, pretty much. I have thought of this. So Calendly is a huge startup, I guess, that can integrate with your Google Calendar and other calendars as well, and then figure out what your open time slots are, and you can specify that I want these slots, but only if I have availability and I have this much space in between the meetings and all of that. It's a very useful tool. And there is space there because it can be even better, and I don't think there are many players in the market yet. So that would be a fun thing to do. I will post it on the Discord as well. If you want to post it on the Discord, that's also more than welcome too, because that's how I understand your idea. But maybe you meant something different. So for the agenda, we're so close. We haven't cast because one of the two biggest problems and the things to solve in engineering is naming things and cast invalidation. So I don't want to cast first and then need to delete the cast, nuke the cast, or do something else. I don't think it'd be that much of a problem, but still, why tempt fate? But we are having problems deploying this thing that we made work to Vercel. That's the thing that we're trying to solve, and maybe we will solve it by switching to Playwright somehow. I'm not sure. The problem is that the endpoint, the SvelteKit endpoint, the serverless Lambda, doesn't have the Chromium, the browser. It needs to visit the page that we want, so it cannot take the screenshot and all of that. Seems resolvable, but whether we do it on stream or do it later and then I show up and say, oh, this is how we did it in the end, it's another matter entirely. But I do think the episode so far has been a success. And if we did have the time, I wanted to talk about using generated images as the base. So of course there is tons to improve with the design that we've made. We can add fun images left and right, but the most fun would be to integrate with something else that's been all the rage nowadays, which is AI generated images, whether with DALL-E or like static diffusion or whatever the kids are calling it nowadays. There are so many tools where you can give pretty much a prompt, a text prompt, or a base image, and say manipulate it in that style, or add this, or do that, and then you get something kinda new to work with, which would be fun to play around with. So our base layer could be a blurred version of something that an AI tool created thanks to the prompt that would be the title of the blog post or whatever else. I think that'd be fun to try out. Although, as always, I do think the human correction is essential, but in many cases, if the human is me, like, you know, I can't do something much better than this. This is the peak of my design skills nowadays. Maybe in the future I'll become better. But if the human is an actual expert, then they'd be able to come up with something better than this. And probably something better than the AI would be able to do at this point. The most exciting use cases for those is when a human is curating AI output. So you use it to get unstuck or to get started with a few iterations. It's a bit like rubber ducking maybe with engineering, like you bounce off each other and you become better and resolve the problem in the end. But yeah, that'd be fun to do, but we'll definitely not do it today. We'll do a final attempt on whether we can deploy to Vercel something that actually runs. I'll see if I can make Playwright run now. So as a reminder to myself, we have a GitHub action for Playwright. And I think the npx Playwright install with deps is the thing that installs Playwright with dependencies with the browsers. Is that the missing step? Is there like a with deps with Puppeteer? Maybe not. Oh well. Playwright CLI. Is there like a CLI guide? What is there? Playwright CLI, blah blah blah. Playwright, not Playwright core, with deps Chromium, that's what we'd want. But how do we run it? Interesting. All right, this is promising. Let's look at how they do screenshots here. Don't want the CLI to take the screenshot, interestingly enough. There must be another thing. Oh, you can even take an element screenshot. It's kind of cool. Right, so it looks like the same thing. So let's see what we got. In packet.json, we have Playwright test, not Playwright. Chromium. There wasn't a page that had all the answers. No worries, we'll just do it by memory, as we usually do. So, uninstall these things that we don't want. npm install. Maybe let's go to npm. Search for Playwright. Will it figure it out? Maybe not. So I don't want Playwright test, just want Playwright. But this is a library, right? Yeah. So where's the import Chromium page? seems very similar. I think this is what we want. We don't want all the obvious craziness. We want to import these things. From Playwright. And then I guess it's Chromium lands here. And the viewport is actually becomes viewport size. And why not? Wait until, that's an image buffer. All good. Let's try to go to this page again to restart the server. All right, we're getting the second wind. This may work. It works. Locally, what do we do to make sure that Chromium is installed? Will this work? We'll find out. So in CI, we do have a separate step where we npx playwright install with tabs here. But what Vercel does is run vit build. What can we do to tell Vercel also run this? And I am gonna have a look at the deployment settings, I guess. Hopefully they won't show anything crazy. Nope. So it does do install and build. First, I can only imagine it does install and then it runs build. So right, first up, let's migrate this. Maybe it will just work. But I imagine that we will need to pass the... Oops. I guess everything's a dev dependency with this thing. Let's try to push this to Vercel and see if he doesn't like it. Fix. Switch to Playwright and hope for the best. I was talking about how the next video is not gonna be on Playwright because it was taking me so long. And if this works, maybe there is another chapter to add. It's like how you can even use Playwright to do your meta images. That'd be quite a twist. What a twist. We made it here. Yes, let's just remove all tabs. And I imagine this will still work. This page will still work after the next deployment. But this page, will it be running now? I don't know. If not, we'll do another attempt to get Vercel to install Chromium so Playwright can run it. I think the play is to switch the build script to be npx install Playwright with depths Chromium and then build. Maybe not the best thing. Hey, oh, it failed miserably. Miserably. What? Well, that one I didn't expect. Let's hope we get it locally. That's all right. Is it because Chromium is not installed? Can it figure it out? I can only imagine it would have worked if that was the problem. Yeah, unfortunate. Uninstall Playwright. That has to be the only difference. Don't do this. We just introduce this difference. So let's build. Cannot bring in Playwright, which is fine. It has to be this, surely. If this does nothing with Playwright, is it happy? Yes. Is it that we are doing explicitly the Chromium thingy? Problem with how we do the imports. Maybe. Oh, I guess not. What else could it be? There's also Playwright core. Let's have a look at that. Is there a Playwright core? What is this? The no browser flavor of Playwright. Okay. And how do I make it run with Chromium? Is there like Playwright core repo? It's not. No page, no nothing. Code transpilation issues. Not the one we want. I was doing WebKit here. Would it still flip out? If I wasn't using any of this, but still importing Playwright, would it still flip out? If I was using all of this, but then went to Vite and said inline Playwright, would that make it work? I can try to install again the Chrome AWS Lambda. Then, how would I launch it? Would I import it from, let's have a look. Chrome AWS Lambda. Maybe there is a Lambda version here. Oh my god. It's a lead. Promising. Is that the real thing? All right, does this still work? I think the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is no. It is trying harder than last time, but it seems like it is gonna load. Just change the URL again to see if it is gonna work. looks like it works. Right, and what did we bring in? We don't want Playwright core. We don't want this. Sweet. Let's do the old retry. See it working locally, hopefully. Did I need to specify headless? It's not quite right. Headless. I'm gonna just rerun this just in case I removed it. And retry to go there. Does take a while, but it makes it. Does the build step work locally? This is it. Ah. The answer is no. Because what could it be? It could be that the Vercel adapter is checking how big is the dependency and it can't quite make it. But I'm just remembering that I did add this to the vidconfig. Maybe I shouldn't. But yeah, that's a problem. What else is there to try? I think this is gonna be it for the stream, and then I'll come back next week or in the chat, in the Discord, and tell you what is up. So here we are using the Playwright AWS Lambda one, which we're hoping is the very small version of it. Using Playwright core. But for whatever reason, bringing it in is that fine, or is that immediately crashing? Yeah, it feels like even just importing it is causing some troubles. I wonder why. What if I import the Lance Chromium one? Is that a real thing? Yeah, there must be something there that Vite doesn't like. And he's saying that I would never be able to import this. You can use a different service for this and not deploy to Lambda. I suppose that would be the last solution. Okay, so have this be a persistent service. But for now, like I'm at my wit's end as well. Thanks for the suggestions, but I don't think we're gonna make it work, sadly, today. But we are close. So locally, we can get Playwright even, not Puppeteer, which is good because we're using Playwright for tests anyway, so we're maybe a bit more familiar with how it works. And we can get it to generate a dynamic image for us to use for social images. But we cannot get this server out to deploy to Vercel specifically. Why? I don't know. Something here it doesn't quite like. And I do think I have the latest versions of this. I try to upgrade to the latest versions, to the nextest versions of everything, just in case they fixed a bug or something. I have found with some packages specifying... Wait a minute, this doesn't look correct at all. Is there something in Vite where I can say, leave this alone? Don't transpile it. Hacky code. Like ignore. I am thinking, can I say to Vite, don't transform this, don't try to do anything to this, just get it in. And I'm not sure. Have all these flags, so it should be fine. Oh well, not something to debug on the stream. I'm sure with a bit of a break there will be something that pops in our heads and be like, oh, of course, should have done this. But this is the final thing to resolve. We get the screenshot, we have the endpoint handler running, we can't do it. How do we get this to deploy? There must be something we can play around with to make this as lightweight as possible, to actually deploy to Vercel, which uses AWS Lambda behind the scenes even today, I believe. So that's the thing to figure out eventually. But I think that's gonna be it for the code today. The thing to say is that we can see how it does take a little bit of time to generate the thumbnail, and it doesn't matter that much because I do think most systems will wait a bit for that image to resolve, but you don't really want to hammer your endpoint and have it running all the time. So caching the image heavily and only running this like once per minute at the minimum would be a good idea, because it does take a while and it feels like it's going to be using a lot of resources. So yeah, got stuck on the deploy to Vercel. If we managed to get it to deploy, we would be messing with headers to cache it more heavily. And then we did discuss a little bit of how we'd be using AI generated images to make this a bit more interesting to the eye without a lot of effort from our side. But maybe that's something we can revisit next week. So integrating with one of those AI generated images thingies that have been all the rage lately. And of course, I will mention yet again in any video, write in the comments or join the Discord to join the conversation a bit more reciprocatively. I don't know how that verb would conjugate, but we can have a bit of back and forth of what you'd like to see in the marathon stream on October 21st. There are some ideas floating around. The simplest one would be just make a portfolio page, and that's about it. The e-commerce one would probably be the most complicated one. I'm sure there are more complicated ones in the world, but out of the ones suggested, that would probably be the most complicated one, because I feel they need to like create real things. So I've been trying to think, what do I do? Do I try to sell pictures on a symbolic price? Do I find things I have in my house that I put into for a sale? I don't really know. The calendar resolution one, for example, is something that's quite practical as well. Maybe mid-diff between the others. And also to note, we will be doing a marathon stream on the day. It's gonna take a while, but I don't expect that we'll have like a finished product on at the end of the day. But hopefully something with lots of interesting things to learn on the day and to keep going for next episodes as well, if people like it. But it is gonna be a commitment. It is gonna be a thing that we keep iterating on, much like Techy Cat has been and will be still iterated on in the future. So let's make it something that you want to see. Let me know what you want to see. We'll pick the one that's most popular and maybe sensible. Always have veto powers. But yeah, that's about it for my rant. Let me know if you've got any other words, any other questions, concerns, aspirations, anything at all. The weather has changed quite a bit since last month. I could hear we started with slightly heavy rain, like medium rain, but now I think it's just fresh, which is, you know, welcome after a very, very hot summer. Gaming news as well would be fun. I am trying to keep going with my game made in Godot 4, which I will be doing an episode about, or many episodes about at some point, I'm sure, because I have tried Unreal Engine. I had tried it in the past as well. I am familiar with Unity. I've heard of Unity, even though I haven't used it myself. But Godot, I would say, is the engineer's choice. It's quite fast to work the editor, not as fast as using VS Code and working with front-end frameworks or any of that sort, but compared with how it is to work with Unity or Unreal Engine, it is day and night. So the IntelliSense features aren't quite there, they're a bit slow and not thorough, but it's so much faster to do things, undo things, do version control. All of these things seem quite better using Godot, even if maybe the feature set is not as impressive, but I wouldn't know because it's I'm just trying to double in game design and development nowadays, but it's been an interesting side journey. My approach to life so far has been make websites and apps and play video games, but you know, it's fun at some point to indulge yourself in those sorts of endeavors. All right, so with those words of wisdom, it's gonna be it. It's been a pleasure to have you around and got with you. I'm quite excited with how far we went. We breezed past, I'd say, with getting the screenshot locally, like better than I had expected. But then we got stumped with the Vercel deployment, which does happen. If we were deploying a Docker image somewhere, then we'd have been safe. I guess one of the few remaining drawbacks of deploying to the cloud and with serverless functions and all of that is that those are can be tricky when the size of the things you're deploying or the amount of times you want these things to run, how much resources they take. They can be problematic and harder to recreate locally than it is if you are just deploying a Docker image or have a regular server. Anyway, thanks again, and have a go if you want at the description, join the Discord. Definitely have a look at their repo. I'll try to clean this up and get the branch out as well so you can see today's code as soon as possible. Otherwise, please do have a lovely Friday evening and a lovely weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.